Hi everyone, good evening. This is 7/10 minutes with ARKHILITE, and over the other side, the other side really of the globe actually, we have Dr. Wee Hong Ling. Dr. Wee, thanks for being in the house. Thank you so much for obliging.
Thank you for the invitation. Good morning from New York.
Yeah, so this is 9:30 p.m. Obviously in Singapore, and 9:30 in New York City.
Yes.
There's we're just chatting up a couple of minutes before this. There's really so much I want to cover, and you were talking about to see whether life will be I think very much intertwined, right? Life and the kind of work that you do, and especially when your content is very much on play, and then how that is being related to home. So we'll be talking a lot of things about that. But as a start, I know that you kept on mentioning that you're like a one-woman company, but it's actually I would see that as something that is like much larger than how you would like politely put it. Would you like to share a little bit with us on how you come up with the name of your company, of your brand, at least like Ceramicus?
Okay, so Ceramicus, right? It's really because in Latin they usually have US suffix added to mean a profession. Like architect is architectus, right? Like medical doctor is medicus. So I thought, since I work with ceramics, I will call myself Ceramicus.
Why
That's
Greek?
how it came up.
Why Greek? Or Latin, is it? Did you say Latin? Why Latin?
I don't know. I think at that time, this is like 20 years ago, I was a little bit curious about those.
You've been doing ceramics for like 20 years?
Yeah, it's exactly about 20 years right now.
Okay, you have got like
Time flies.
time flies. Okay, I didn't know. I thought you I thought something more like 10 years. So because you have like amassed like so much, accomplished like so much. I wanted very much to ask you really to go slow. That was one of the things that you see in parallel between what I do as a main core of my work, which is in interior architecture, and we're very much into slow spaces. So I'm trying to feel, and it does come naturally to me. And just when we were talking about it, you were saying that you have got many friends who are like architect trained or architect, and then I was about to share with you, but then the time was ticking, and I'll take the opportunity like right now that interestingly, like at least 50% of the guests and friends I've spoken to, I mean friends, no count, because I knew them, but even guests, they are architect trained as well. So this is something that's really interesting. It's like this gravity towards each other. I think somehow to you as well. But I'd like you to describe to me and to all of us who are like tuning in, step by step, slowly, if you will, what is going through your mind when you first touch clay, and then how is it that you experience the joy of ceramic pottery making? I asked this in a very almost like a super curious manner, because something which I have read about you. I'm not sure whether that's still the way, because you were talking, because it's like 20 years that you first started started making. But I remembered reading somewhere that you mentioned that with all the love and for the work that you have done in the past, you were working with NASA and with outrageously like interesting work, but still those work do not get you out of bed, like how you put it, as much as ceramic does. Of course, recently I heard that, thanks for sharing, there's another interview with a radio station in Singapore, and you're talking about your next step may be like cooking. But we're not gravitating towards that. But can you share with me, like what went through your mind when you first...
Before I ever touched clay, I was doing graduate school studies, research, a lot of space satellite application and stuff, right? So I came to the US and I happened to be at the right place at the right time with the right skill set. You know,
was it in New York City already then? Is that the first place you went to?
Yes. So this was 28 years ago. So somebody ever said to me that it's more important to be lucky than to be talented. I agree 100%. Okay. So I happened to be at the right place at the right time with the right skill set. So I met with Professor Scott Medry at Rutgers University for graduate school, you know, just visiting the department. And, you know, for what I had studied at National University of Singapore, it became applicable to the research project that Dr. Medry was going to do.
You were doing science in NUS? Were you doing science in NUS?
I was doing geography, but with a specialization in satellite application.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, so Dr. Medry offered me a research fellowship to work on this NASA project, and I said, "Let me think about it." Yes. Right. So, and that really started me on this path. Right. Like, okay, you know, looking at satellite images, processing it on high-speed computers because it's so data intensive, right? So the mind works much faster at that time than the computer processors could handle. So I would go into the lab and turn on every single computer because I want it fast, right? So that was my master's degree. So then I went on to do a PhD, and a friend said to me at that time, like, Hong Ling, you are so focused on research. You know, you really need to live a more balanced life and try different things. So I've signed you up as a gift, a pottery class. And I thought, that's a terrible gift, right? Because first, it's not what I want.
Is it like second, a birthday gift?
No, I think for Christmas or something, you know?
Okay, really?
Which is very, very generous because it was a 10-week program,
wow,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I've already...
She's going to put you out of work. In a way. Come on, 10 courses, right?
No, 10 weeks. So
10
once
weeks.
a week.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay.
The hobby class, you know? So I've already grown up being convinced that I'm not creative and I'm not artistic, because I come from parents who highly discourage that kind of activities, you know? Sure, my parents survived the Japanese occupation of Singapore, and, you know, to them, stability, right, is more 100%. Important than this creative expression that people feel so much joy out of, you know? Yeah. So anyway, right, so I was always a science student. I never touched clay or painted or, you know, any of that. So then when this friend gave me this gift, I went ready to dislike it. I went to the first class ready to dislike it, and, you know, like, you can't get a refund, it's already paid for. My friend was coming with me, and, you know, like, oh, this is a fun activity to do together, you know. So in my head, being the overachieving Singaporean, I was like, I need to go on and turn on more computers and process more satellite images. You know what I mean, right? So then I lay my hands on clay, and it was as though I walked out of a black and white world into a world of colors.
Wow. When was the last time I heard that? Must be from an impressionist, a French impressionist.
That was how it felt to me. I can still remember that moment. You know, like. Well,
thanks for describing that. So
these hands have not been trained to make things, right? I mean, I didn't even cook when I was growing up. You know, my grandmother and then my mom did all the cooking. So, you can't go from typing and processing on a computer to making something. It has to be a trained muscle, right? So anyways, but that joy and that fulfillment that I felt, you know, just threw all the considerations out the window.
Okay, let's go even deeper with this. You were mentioning about the rapid pace of how your mind would be calculating, you're talking about even faster than computers then. And when you dive into clay with your hand, and that really makes your mind stop, because in a way your emotions or your heart took over rather than your brain. So your brain took like a back seat. Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, very much so. So I found myself going to the studio a whole lot and going to the lab less, right? And that's a real imbalance for my life, because I had not scheduled the studio time into my life. You know what I mean, right? So, and yet I couldn't make much because I was so new to it. I was new to making. I was new to learning this entire new language of creativity.
So after the 10 courses, you signed up for more?
Oh, more. Yeah, like yeah, so it's like on and on and on and on now, right? So I was so eager to learn everything about this that because at that time I was also doing my graduate school, right? Okay. So I went to the school library and I borrowed every single book they had in the school library system that is related to ceramics and pottery. So much so that the librarian, seeing me come and pick up the stack, thought that I was an arts student, right? So I said, no. And then when the library didn't have a particular book, I would request interlibrary loan, and sometimes they would loan it from another university or something like that. And that's the best part of being a student. You have this, world of resources available to you. Which is so terrific. So at that same time, I was doing my PhD degree. I was also
Did you
going
pass
to
that?
the studio a lot.
Did you pass that? Did you pass your PhD?
I did. Well, you see,
thankfully,
I took 3 years out of graduate school to just be in the studio.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was how much I loved it, right? But in the back of my head, I kept telling myself, this is just a hobby. This can't be.
Even then.
Yeah. This can't be anything more than that, because
how long did that kind of self-talking last?
I would say close to 2 years.
All right.
Yeah.
It's not too long, considering you have been in science and in something that's like hard and factual for the longest time.
Exactly, because my whole life has been up to that point been like, okay, I've laid out this really, really smooth path ahead of me, right?
That's right. Direct.
I already invested so much time and energy.
And you were in the States for that.
Yes, exactly. Right? So I thought, okay, well, this is irrational, right? So put that to the back of the mind and just enjoy it, but don't treat it seriously. So then September 11 happened in New York.
When as in between when you first started with clay, with experiencing clay, and September 11, what's the timeline like?
So that was exactly the turning point for me. So it was like a year and 9 months or something, right? Close to 2 years. Yeah, so September 11 happened and I was really close to ground zero. So that was a wake-up call, because, well, if you have a second chance in choosing your life, how would you make either the same choices or different choices? Like, what would you do if you're given a second chance? I have neighbors who went to work that day and never came home, so they never got that choice, right? Yeah. So I thought, okay, well, what do I want to do most when I wake up in the morning, right? I was really good at doing what I did before, but I never once got out of bed thinking, let me run to the lab and turn on more computers. Or let me look at more satellite images because I'm just so excited to look at the next satellite image. I mean, I was great. I was happy doing that. But when I wake up in the morning, I cannot wait to go to the studio. Wow,
that's powerful. That's different.
And so, yeah, that is the quality of life difference, right? For me. So then I wasn't very good at the beginning, and I thought, well, you've got to start somewhere. So I decided it would be better if I completed the PhD degree, because I was closer to the end than I was to the beginning at that point.
Of course.
So
yeah, of course, yeah.
Right.
That'll be rational to do, even though you have got you're throwing something out, but that's rational to do.
So I completed it, and the day that I finished and defended the degree, and the committee signed off on all the paperwork to say that I fulfilled all the requirements, I went home and celebrated by throwing out all the academic journals related to that and all the books related to that, because I need more shelf space for ceramics now.
That's so interesting. Is one of the no, but you were mentioning hobby. Hobby is something that, of course, right now things are really quite different, even from when I first started work. As in now, there are many people who are able to turn their hobby into something like a career, right? But for you, science and the kind of work for the PhD, you were so much into it, and that's obviously where the career is going to be, and your livelihood very much depend on that, and not so much on the hobby. How does is there like, did anyone who are your first customers really for as far as ceramics are concerned?
Well, friends and family are always the most supportive, right? Then they're like, okay, we need to get a gift, what can we get from you?
So they are your first customers?
Yeah, always, no matter what I do.
As your first launches. Oh, okay, all right.
Now, the thing is, I think that it is more important when it is someone not related to you, right? Or friends with you that want to actually have your things. That is key.
That part. Then but is that your first taste of achievement? Is when your friends they buy your creation, as in they very much want to and are they from Singapore or your friends from New York?
I would say both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So is that your first taste of achievement, that you can actually do something with your, at least you would term it as a hobby before that, and then now it's actually possible to make something that supports your life in return?
I think financial sustainability is another whole different question, right?
Really?
But at least there's people out there who wants this stuff. Because when you are making your thing, you think, oh, isn't this terrific, or something, right? But maybe another person looking at it would be like, what? Why would you do that?
Were you even thinking of selling them when you first started? As in when you when was it after you took up the course and the 10 courses, and then you went on for more, from then to the first gift, something which your friends say, I don't care, Hong Ling, you have to accept this check or cash. How long was that? How long was that?
I think that it was maybe a year and a half after I touched clay. Right. The studio had a sale, like a pottery sale. It's like an open house. A few people set up their benches and tables.
As a community?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
So then I was, still very new to it, right? Because it was like, less than 2 years. So I made a bunch of stuff, and I did really well.
As in, a lot of pieces are snapped up.
Yes.
Right?
But I'm somebody who I feel I'll always have these counterintuitive reaction to things, okay? So, I just happen to be sitting here, so I can reach for them. So one of the first things that I made was like this polar bear structure.
Polar bear. Oh, this is
like origami kind of thing. You
wow.
fold it
Wow.
and
I'm sure this is limited edition now. This is like 20 years.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
can I have that?
Anyway, what I was selling at the pottery show was these things, okay? And they were snatched up. And in my head,
I can tell why they look gorgeous, really. even then, really. I mean, they are abstract.
10 years old. Yeah.
I would think so. Oh my God, can you make me one?
So instead of thinking, oh wow, isn't this great? I can make a living out of selling polar bears. I thought to myself, I can never make this again.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Because first, I don't want to go into production. I don't want to make
as in mass production.
Yeah, I don't want to make things quicker,
all right,
faster, cheaper, lighter. You know, all the industrialization features, right? I want to make things more meaningful, slower, more precious. So it is the opposite of what I saw people just snatching it up. You know, it was something that they could put in the pocket, and they had a reaction to it, which is, this is so cute, right? I had such a visual reaction to that comment that I thought, wow, do I want to be known as the person who makes cute work?
So this is deep, because you're talking about the reverse, right? While you see that your work have been snapped up, and there's something which is encouraging, something which you did not expect, but at the very same token, you were quite taken aback by that comment, and also by the speed of where I think the demand and the speed where things are being your work's being collected or being snapped up gave you the encouragement, but at the same time gave you some thoughts, some feedback, and that's where it also spurred you towards creating something which is like what you were mentioning, something that's much more meaningful. Is that how your work ended up in permanent collections, not just in Singapore but in several other countries as well? Can you bring us through that? How do you gear towards that? Because I'm not sure. I mean, if you started off with doing ceramics from the onset, I think the academic route would be something that that you'd be very much wanted to gear towards. But how do you make that transition?
Okay,
from like an amateur, in a way, to that.
And a much older amateur too, right?
I want to say that.
Yeah.
No, let's not go to that.
15 years old, right?
Okay.
So
all right.
Now the thing is, I never planned it out to be this way. I mean, if you had asked me this 20 years ago, I could never have imagined my life as a full-time artist. Never. It was not even in the realm of possibilities. But I know that in everything that I do, I want to make sure that I do it fully committed, 100%, wholehearted, engaged, totally. Which is why I don't do fast ceramics. I do slow ceramics. The moment it becomes really fast to me and I can just whip things out, you lost interest. Lose interest, and I would stop. Yeah. So now, because everything I do is fully committed and slow, and I only make what I want to make, right? So then if there is a showing opportunity, I show it. If there is a competition opportunity, I send it in, I submit it. So those things in the permanent collections are really, again, it's better to be lucky than to be talented. They won some competitions, and then they became the collections over there. I could not have planned it out, right? It wasn't like, let me give this to the National Gallery. I was in an exhibition at Sculpture Square, and then at that time, Mr. Ko Xiaochuan was the chair, and he came and he saw lineage, and then collected it for a National Gallery.
Awesome.
So things like that happen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mr. Ko Xiaochuan from DP Architects, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
I think Hong Ling, you made this sound so easy. No, not because it's something that cannot be achieved in a way, because it depends on luck. But I beg to differ, because I can feel I can almost see the thread, between luck in your case and the work and I would even say, like the original intent that you have. That is, when you want to do something, you want to do your very best, and you want to see where that you want to see where that can lead you to. So of course, then later on, after you're putting all the hard work, you've got this original intent to do the very best that you can, and then when you felt that luck is on your side as well. Of course, sometimes in life, very often than not, we see that people, in a way, put in their best, and the best are, as in the results do not come in. But as a matter of fact, actually, I don't feel that. Maybe that's another topic really, but I don't really feel that that's the case, because I see more often than not that a lot of people, they talk about wanting to do the best, but the execution and the amount of, even the intent and the amount of work that they're willing to put into it is like pale so much in comparison with what they are saying. So then of course it would just be fair that luck is not on that side and it's on your side. You just be fair.
I think that where I have control over something, right? I try to be fully prepared for something. When I have no control over a situation, then at least, well, what can we learn about that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
that's right.
10 minutes before we started, I had no internet connection.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yes. Let's talk about this for a while. Yeah, I think this is really interesting.
So that is, having no internet connection is out of my control. The whole area, the service provider is down. So, but what I could do is make plan B, right? So I have a very kind friend across the street who has offered me, like come over and use my internet and things like that. Now, so I can only be as prepared as I can be. At the private museum exhibition 2 years ago, I had shipped these crates of ceramics. The three largest to Singapore, from New York to Singapore.
To Singapore.
Yeah. So the three largest.
Just for record, sorry to interrupt, but you have as in your works are exhibited in many different countries, but as far as the permanent collections, they are in Japan and in China as well, other than Singapore.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, this is awesome. And you were saying you're shipping like crates of ceramics over to Singapore.
Yeah, to the exhibition, right? So usually the freight is 4 to 6 weeks.
All right.
So I like to be prepared and give myself some buffer. So I put in another 2 more weeks just in case. The three largest works did not make it to the opening. It arrived 3 days after the opening because of the bad weather at sea. So that cargo ship was stalled in the Middle East for weeks. So now, what can you do?
Yeah.
You cannot control the weather, right? So I was in discussion with the gallery as to how should we handle this. Should we postpone the opening? Should we arrange the work such that people would not notice the 3 missing pieces, and then rearrange it again when
are they the highlights? They're big, but they are the highlights.
Yeah, right.
I'm
because
sure.
they're the 3 largest. They're like,
Okay.
right. So, well, I like to be totally open and honest about what's going on, right? So I said, let's go ahead with the opening and take this opportunity to talk about unpredictability, right?
Wow, that's powerful.
Because what can you do? What can you do? I mean, but in every situation, if you think about it, it could always be worse.
That's true.
So therefore,
that's true.
I am grateful for the opportunity, and then we told people that there were 3 missing pieces that didn't arrive because of it being held up in the freight, and invite them back again for a
Absolutely,
second.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that
for a second
they
viewing of it.
will have to come back.
Yeah,
To make the
so,
tickets work.
yeah. So that's what we can do, you know.
I would really like to, for our viewers, to take a look at your work now. Some of the work. I'm sure many of us have seen. You know, I was just chatting with a friend, Christina, from so far like earlier on, like this afternoon, and yeah, please, would you like to share your screen for some of the work that you have done, or your because we're talking about, maybe you show the screen first, you share the screen first, and then we talk about that.
I'm just gonna show some signature works, right?
Sure.
So this is the series called Bird Vases. So they're like really simple lines, and the way they stand just reminds me of my parents. You know, really dignified people, always standing tall.
Upright.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, this is about my parents' togetherness for 40 years.
Is this from a newer collection?
No, this is one of the oldest works.
Really?
Yeah. So these 2 pieces went into this. They were made with the same clay, went into the same kiln, and it came out slightly different in the surface, right?
Really?
So it's like, you know, 2 people could be from the same family. The height was deliberate.
Okay.
That they were made to not.
But the texture, but the texture.
Right. And it really depended on where they were in the kiln. The firing, you can't control it, you know. So yeah. So
wow, this is beautiful.
This is the bird vase series. Then I would say now this was first created because I like to look at the home and see what are some of these objects at home that we have but commonly taken for granted. So I think of the Asian kitchen, Singapore kitchen, and there's usually these 2 pouring vessels, one for the light soy sauce and one for the dark soy sauce, right? So I made this set, and I really like how they look like they're talking to each other.
Interesting.
So from there, it transitioned into, let me see, how do I have to share screen again and go to another
slide.
Yeah.
PowerPoint?
No, I just have to open it. Hang on. Sorry.
Is it from your website? No, we've got plenty of time.
Oh, you know what? Yes, actually, yeah. Lineage. Yeah. Okay. So let me share screen
Share the
again.
screen.
Yep. Okay.
Wow.
So I went from the 2 to the set of 9, which really represents my 2 sets of grandparents, my parents, my 2 older brothers, and myself.
Wow.
And the tray that is sitting on is, you know, symbolic of the family structure. And so each bottle is maybe 1 centimeter difference in height.
Okay.
So because I like how 9 looked, the overachiever in me said, why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Go big, you know, go bigger, right? So then I made this installation of 21, and really the meaning behind lineage is this. Each one of these little vessels is very similar to the one before it and the one after it. It's like we are most similar to our parents and our children.
Sure.
Right? A likeness. And your a likeness dilutes over generation. You are less like your grandparents and even less so like your great grandparents.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you take the first one and the last one and you put them side by side, they may not look like they belong, but if you fill in the spaces in between, you can actually see that relationship really, really clearly.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah.
Hence lineage. Right? We may be very, very different from our forefathers, but if I fill in the spaces in between, you know, the relationship becomes clear, right?
Yeah, that's a powerful story.
So have I mentioned I'm an overachiever?
Yeah, yes. Like 2 times.
Oh, this is the work that is at the National Gallery.
What's the size of the larger one, and what's the size of the smallest one?
So the tiniest one is maybe 3 cm tall.
Okay.
And the largest one is maybe 35 cm tall.
Okay, there's a lot of difference.
Yeah, but again, each one is changing by 1 or 1.5 centimeter in height. But height is just one dimension, right?
Yeah.
It has to be all dimension changing.
Yeah. That's a block. Right.
Right. Right. So
did you say that this is in Singapore?
Yeah, this is at the National Gallery. But I don't think it's in their, you know, I think it might be in their archive right now. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll move around.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
So that's the lineage series.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Then I also make a lot of houses. So
yeah, this is the one that I've requested for your permission to put it out on our, like, you know, so that we can talk about the show today.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for obliging.
So in the beginning, when I first made houses, I made them like this. I have something to show.
Yay!
Let me stop.
Is this the first one? Is that the first one?
Yeah, this is like the first one. Yeah. So I still have this, but I have long since moved away from this, because in the beginning, when I started making these sculptural objects of what I deem as houses, why houses? Because I always think of the house as, you know, a safe space, where you find solace, comfort, reassurance, love, you know, peace and all that, right? So so when I first started making these sculptures, I would spend a long time scraping the surface. I wanted to make it perfect. I wanted to
they're absolutely smooth for some reason. It doesn't look like clay to me.
Like absolutely
it's like plastic.
Erase every mark of the hand, right?
That's crazy.
Yes, I know. So you see, like, again, right? Like the head things, I have to go down this path, and I will work very hard and like erase all marks of the hand. And then I took a trip to Myanmar and came upon the ancient city of Bagan, and they have like all these really old pagodas from the 12th, 13th century. They're ruins now, but it's all over the landscape. And so I fell in love with that so hard that I was like, you know, that weathered look, that look of being used and age, and, you know, places where it's still so meaningful. And so the tour guide said that at that time, during that period where these pagodas are being built, it was believed by the locals that if you build a temple, a pagoda, in the name of a loved one who has passed, it actually creates good karma for the deceased and ease them into the next life. I love that sentiment. You know, I didn't care if it was folklore or you know what the tour guides would tell you, you know, to make a story romantic. I thought that
you fell in love with the narrative.
I loved it, yeah. And so, like, you know, that's a symbol of love, right? Like, you build it not in your own name, not to build good karma for yourself, but for somebody else. And so then when I came back, my work started changing. I no longer make these perfect sculpture houses anymore, right? So they started changing. And so in the beginning, the houses look like more like this.
Is that why Hong Ling, that you purposely like even make deliberate marks on the surface?
Yes,
right?
yes, very much so. I wanted to not have perfect, smooth surfaces. I wanted to have some wear and tear. The edges are rough around. Like this, right? Like graffiti on the side and things like that.
Yeah, I thought so.
This was what happened, right, to the work.
Hmm.
Then I went to Tibet. You see how my travel journeys takes me to different stages of my work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I went to Tibet, and I'm still sharing screen, right?
No, you're not. You can share.
Sorry.
No, don't worry about it. You can share the screen.
Okay. So then I went to Tibet, and Tibet is so colorful. The sky is so blue. The prayer flags and the bells and everything is just, the things that they wear. And so I was so affected by their use of these colors. But Tibet itself is a really harsh physical environment, you see. So I thought, wow, their use of colors is to symbolize their passion for life. So after that trip, my work started being a group of houses, or more like villages, so it's no longer one solitary house, but more like a bunch of houses together. So then they started looking like this, and they have these watermarks, right? At the bottom. Yeah, because some places that I've traveled to is so damp that you see this watermark just rising in southern China. So I also saw these things as being in a very natural environment. So I installed them on planks of walnut wood instead of just flat white shelves.
I'm able to see the transition really from something that is like as smooth as it possibly can get, at least from your from at least it must pass your very much attention to details, but at the same time the kind of craft and the kind of consistency and the kind of smoothness you have also very much applied to all of these. It's just that when it comes to having the little touches, even as far as we were talking about graffitis, about marks and all that, they are like deliberately done. It's not so much on the craft of that. I think you still put in a lot of hard work to make them as smooth as you can. And when they turn out to be, when you have like different areas to show up differently, where the marks and graffitis are, they are superbly deliberate and carefully done as well.
Thank you. Well, there's no two houses that are identical. So I don't plan out like, okay, I need to make 5 that look like this. Instead, each one is treated as an individual.
Sure.
So
they look gorgeous.
There is a house in Vienna, the Hundertwasser house. It was designed by a painter, Hundertwasser himself, and then he wanted to build this big house of maybe 50-something apartments. Each one has its own unique windows, unique doors, unique floors. So each one of the 50-something apartments in this building is unique. And so I was very, because I lived in Vienna for 1 summer, so that really stuck to my head.
Okay.
Even though that was a period where that was before I even touched clay, you see. But
wow.
Just the idea that every single space is unique, which is, I think, what you also try to do for your work.
100%.
Right? Yeah. That, even one apartment has undulating floors because it was designed to have a pet snake. So the idea that someone would design an apartment for a pet, like, Wow, that is amazing.
And a stick no less.
Yeah, and it is so that it wouldn't be boring for it to travel on,
Sure.
right? So then when I'm in my houses now, so each one is treated as an individual house, and then I don't think about what has been done before. It's all fresh, and so sometimes I put in pet entries.
Wow.
Because there's human entries, right? And then there is pet entries. I mean,
why not?
Who knows,
why not?
Who knows what lived there, right?
And the windows above are for the birds.
Yes. Right? Absolutely. And then
why not? For the sparrows.
Yeah,
thanks for sharing. I would like to see your bronze works as well.
Okay.
If I hit you out with the next series of questions, and to compare the industry and the ceramic scene in Singapore and in New York.
Yes.
I really like to, the heaven and earth. I'm very intrigued by that. What do you mean? I mean, they're covered with snow and you lay them out in winter, I suppose. Then, but how does that come about? But love for you to share the pictures first.
Okay, let's see. Can you see?
Yep.
Okay. So, so this is the finished work.
Wait, I cannot see the PDF document though. I'm looking at the window where it's written Steelworks. But
okay, let's try this again.
All right.
How about now?
No, it doesn't work.
Okay.
So strange. How come?
Yeah. Okay.
How about the JPEG? I think the JPEG might work. The of JPEG above it. Do you think there's something relevant?
The JPEG above it.
Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Can you see it now?
No.
No. Okay.
How come? It's so strange.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'm not doing this right. Okay.
You know what?
Share screen.
No, it means that we're gonna do this the second time. Very much like your exhibition. It runs in pairs.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about that first before I try to figure out how.
Sure.
Yeah. So steelworks, right? So I'm always curious about other materials. How are the materials similar or different? So I thought let me try metals, right? And and it didn't work for me.
But why metals and not glass? Because glass, in a way, is more fluid.
It's more similar,
right? It's more similar, absolutely, to clay work.
Yeah, I didn't like glass as a material.
All right, for some reason. That's all right. Okay.
I tried it. It was extremely fragile, and it was somehow the similarity with clay. It wasn't. That material didn't call to me.
All right.
Glass is something that's very hot when you're working on it, and then it becomes very cold after you're working on it, right?
Oh, that's true.
After it's finished.
That's
now,
true.
ceramics is something that is very cold when you're working on it, and then it becomes very warm when you're using
Different.
Yeah. So
what happens with metal then?
So I tried metal, and it. Okay.
All right.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
The brilliant bronze.
Yeah. So metal was too precious, because it's used for making jewelry, ornaments. It was like small tinkering to get the seams perfectly matched.
Yeah.
It's not my personality. So I said, okay, well, let me try something else, right? So then I went into blacksmithing, steelwork, and had the best teacher, Hoss Haley, and Hoss is an American blacksmith, and you know, a good teacher can make anything exciting and interesting. So and that's what I got out of it. So then I got interested in this blacksmithing work, but it's really harsh. It's really harsh for the joints, the body. It's very intense, it's very hot, but I loved it. There is a limited opportunity to do it because there's, in any urban space, there is no blacksmithing studio. It's a fire hazard. So there's no blacksmithing in Singapore either. Yeah, so this work was done. So this is the finished work. It's called Heaven and Earth. Now, I find that my work and my thinking is very much affected by Chinese cosmology. You know, sometimes the Chinese traditions, you know, that's part of my heritage. There is a lot of squares and circles counteracting each other.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Chinese cosmology, heaven is represented by the circle and earth by the square.
Sure.
Which is why the Temple of Heaven is a circular building.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what about the strokes? What about the strokes? Because they aren't squares.
Okay. So in this installation, the circular element is the individual disc, and then the square of 3x3 is the outside.
Oh, of course.
Right? Now the slits are just like the windows in my houses. Right?
Absolutely. But are we supposed to interpret the steel installations as a plan or as an elevation, like from the front?
This is a wall installation.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would look at it this way. Like each row and each column has 1, 2, and 3 openings, and then it repeats itself, right? In some order. So, but the making of this is, I think, the more interesting part, because my intention is to create this piece called Heaven and Earth, right? So steel, when it's freshly made, it's ugly. It's like raw steel is really ugly. So it was like this. So I finished making it. I came back and I laid it outside on my fire escape. This is outside my window, out there.
Yeah.
And so this is like the first week. You see the elements, right? It's the second week.
Wait, hold on. So there aren't things we apply to it. You're just letting it. You're just letting it.
Yep. So sometimes it rained. Sometimes it's hot. Sometimes it's Sometimes it's snow. This is the first snow of the winter.
Looks delicious to me.
And then
no, this one looks delicious to me.
Yeah,
it's much like chocolate. The final one.
And then the snow again, you know. So this keeps happening, right? So I left it out there for like 8 or 9 weeks. And then this is
intentional. This is intentional. Because finally you do get a very of course it's not like uniform, but you do achieve a more consistent texture and color on all the surfaces.
Yes. However, you also cannot control where the rust goes, right?
That's where the fun is.
More orange, some areas will be more reddish brown. Yeah. Anyways, but that's the final.
Wow, it's beautiful.
And so, and also now Heaven and Earth takes on a second meaning because I do the earthly work, and then the work is actually completed by.
Oh, of course! Thank you.
Yeah,
this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful.
So this
is inspiring. No, thanks so much. really. I was thinking really hard, you know. The closest like that relation I can draw is that you're putting it there and then it's like facing up, you know, and that's where the heaven is. But it didn't occur to me that the play of of how the the different elements from wherever there's above can come down, and that really affects the completion, and that leads to the completion of the earthy part. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is so lovely.
That's the teamwork. Yeah.
So are you still very much into metal? What is it that you're working on now?
Oh, I don't really have the opportunity to work with steel when I'm in New York. So
that wasn't in New York?
No, that was actually the steel work was made in Maine, in Philadelphia, in China, where I can find a blacksmith who would allow me to use their forge.
Wow. when was that? Like last year or something?
No, so that work was for the exhibition 2 years ago, so it was just before that.
There's this, I wouldn't want to let you go, but we started off with 7 to 10 minutes, and that was what that was what I had in mind. I was like sharing with friends and all that, but it always grew longer and longer, and I wouldn't want to let you go before asking you this, and then later on when I say bye, I'll just say bye to our friends and all that online, but please, you just hold on there for a while. I would like to ask you very much about the ceramic scene in Singapore and in New York, in New York City in particular. This might not be a fair question because essentially you are not practicing here, but I'm sure because you've been doing this for a while, and I'm sure you would have friends here, and you have like exhibitions all across the world, definitely in Singapore as well, collected by National Gallery Singapore. What do you think is the main difference? The industry.
Well,
in Singapore and in New York City.
I think New York is very much an environment that encourages creative thinking. You step out and even the graffiti is beautiful.
Okay.
So really, you get on the subway and everyone on the subway is a musician, an artist, an actor. Everyone is full of creative energy. So I think that good ideas just breed more good ideas. It's just like bad ideas do the same as well, right? So my choice of being here is that I really love this environment, and I don't really know the ceramics community in Singapore because I've lived here for 28 years. But when I go back, I see that it's getting some vibrancy, right? People are taking classes. If you enjoy what you do, you don't have to necessarily do it as a full-time artist. Just enjoyment is good enough, right? And if you want to take it to the next level, then great.
Yep.
That's good too. Here, I think that New York is kind of unique in the sense that people really, I feel, would change and
people as in, do you mean like ceramicists like yourself or buyers in general?
The average person is willing to make changes in their lives so that they could have something else, right? So I know I have a friend who then readjusts her work week into 4 days week, 4 days, so
what week?
Yeah. Friday, Saturday, Sunday could be spent at the studio.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So I think that it also takes your boss who's understanding to allow that kind of rearrangement, right? So that is quite common here. I am not sure about.
So the community, other than the practitioners like yourself and your friends who because like what you mentioned, there's this culture and there's this in a way freedom to adjust your life, your lifestyle, and many of us are like back here being like caught up in the rat race still, and there are you look at what is it that your friends or your neighbors or your classmates and so on and so forth, like your parents, they're all doing, and you very much do the same. It's probably not to say that one way is better than the other, it's just that one way is more free than the other, definitely. But on the other hand, there must be, I suppose, like I would call it a market. Like there must be a market to support the creative works that that folks like us would have put out. There's something which I vividly remember. I'm not sure whether that's still true, but I would guess so. That I think you told me about a year back that an average collector or buyer of ceramics art in the States maybe would be less afraid of it being broken than a collector here in Singapore.
Absolutely. 100%. When people buy something here, I think that they want to use it, they want to live with it, they want to have this close relationship with it, right? They don't put it in the glass cabinet just to look at. They don't put it out of
this
their
part
way.
Is really interesting because it didn't occur to me.
Yeah, I mean, so
before hearing from you,
I make delicate works like things like this.
Wow, they're beautiful.
So usually high center of gravity, cantilever, that kind of stuff, right? And why I make things like that is because instead of encouraging the user to be unconscious about what they're doing, what they're using, I want it to be such that now this thing requires extra care, extra attention, extra engagement, extra focus. So when you're using it, you have to treat it with special care, right? So that's the kind of work that I like to make. So it's also something that is for a special moment, right? It's not like, it's not like you go to a restaurant and they're using this kind of ware. It's not. This is like, I'm inviting my best friend over, we're gonna have wine, we're gonna have tea. This is the kind of things that I would bring out and I'll use it, you see. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's different here when I've been to friends' houses where they are just using and living with the things that they have collected. Yeah, they might have thrown some things away. Maybe they have
I'm sure. Yeah, no, but I think but this goes very well into the economics of things, where the supply and the demand, and when things get used or broken, and then that's where the new demand will come in, and that really completes the loop. Because if we buy and especially but of course New York City being a city and therefore space is scarce, very much like what we have in Singapore, and then there's only so much that you can display. But when you use it, then that's really different, and then you could use it for different occasions. I'm not encouraging people to break their wares and all that, but I'm just saying that the fact that you're using it, you're actually already living and participating in the works that the creator has originally wanted to make it for. I think this is the most powerful part. In Singapore, I do feel that there is this new or fresh wave of people who are already doing it, started doing it rather. But we've got to start somewhere. So I think this is a really a great revelation that I hear from you, and I hope that we're able to really sustain it. Over here, I meant in Singapore.
Well, I think it's important to have the things in your life or in your surrounding that is meaningful and beautiful to you, right? Then it actually heightens your awareness to aesthetics, to function, instead of just blindly, using it. I mean, people often ask me oh, your work is so expensive. I could buy the same thing at IKEA for $2. Yeah. Well, I never intended to be a competition for IKEA anyways. So, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So it's a whole different situation. But I know that everything that is handmade has to be made with such care and such attention and such love that, that is what makes the quality of life. And each person may find different things that add to their quality of life, and that's okay.
100%.
And that's what life is about, right?
Yeah.
But find the things that mean something to you, and then use them, because that's those special moments.
Hong Ling, are you going back to your studio later? Because I know that like 2 weeks back, you're probably not able to because of the lockdown, you know, you're still not able to.
No.
Okay, I thought you were going back later. So later you're going back to your...
Yeah, this studio since mid-March until
Sorry?
now.
Sorry, from mid-March.
Yeah.
No news yet.
Probably not going to reopen until probably mid-September if the situation is under control. If it's not, it could go on much longer. So
because we're talking about it, you know, New York City is doing well. It's just that there's this influx and circulation of people all around the states. But before I let you go, whether is it back to your kitchen and stuff, just again, I'm not sure whether this is a fair question for you, but I'm sure you're able to share some thoughts, and your thoughts especially, New York City especially, where in terms of a lot of things, but economics, you know, a powerhouse. In Singapore, we're very much focused on bread. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you must have, in a way, like bread first and then the butter will come later. So we've been like spending, the people, the community, the government, for the last 50 over years to build this up. But where do you see how does the creativity for New York City comes about? I mean, if it's so very much focused on the finances and on the economic infrastructure of things, how does that comes about? I think you are in a way able to share your thoughts into this because you clearly come from that background as well. You were like for half of what you know. You have lived from then to now, like half of it you're very much into the exploration, and then you gravitated towards something else.
I think it's a ecosystem, right? Like there are makers and creators, and then there are the consumers of those things. I mean, the creators and the makers may not be the ones making all the money on Wall Street, but then they are the ones maybe creating work that feeds spiritually and the aesthetic needs of the other population, right? So it's actually a symbiotic relationship, I find. So there has to be the demand and the supply. And so thank God, one person can't do it all.
I was about to say that you're such a lucky person because you're one and you're almost an embodiment of the two different aspects.
I'm not so sure, but thank you. I don't know. I mean, because I'm a very difficult person, so I can only work with myself. So I do all the packaging myself. I do all the work myself. I do the photography myself, only because I'm fussy. So therefore, I also believe that if you give that work to someone else, and if it's not done well, then you blame them, right? But I can't. I just blame myself. If something arrives broken, I blame me, right? If something is not photographed well, I do it again, right? So that's just how I am. But to take 100 responsibility in everything, and then at the end of the day, I can go to sleep. I said I've done my best.
You've done your best.
This is my best at this time, even though maybe 5 years from now I can do better work. But I know that at this point, I have my best.
You're living in the moment. Hong Ling, where is it that we can find you? As in our folks. How can they connect with you?
My website is ceramicus.com. So ceramic.
Drop your mail.
US.com. Yeah. Just contact me.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be the one replying.
100%, I'm sure. All right, folks. So you have heard the lady. I'll see you next week. Next week we will have Kelly Cheng with us. But till then, you take care and talk to all of you soon. Thank you. Thanks, Hong Ling.